We've had now initially, Lisa and I have been meeting for a few months, and that they all just go along. We're back. All right.
We had to agree for the recording.
God, okay. Someone agreed. Let's make sure
Hopefully.
we're all good.
Oh, the transcripts.
Okay, here we go.
I have not done that in Teams before. Good to know.
Yeah.
Lisa and Mary, are you good?
There was a brief glitch too that I experienced, so it may be. Okay, I think Elisa might be.
Lisa?
Yeah, and Mary, if you can't figure it out, because I couldn't, I'm sorry, I'm slow here on technology. You have to hit the mute button on the top. If you hit the mic, it'll ask you a question and then it'll agree.
Oh my.
You got it. You're back.
You're good.
But
Yeah.
now my goes, okay. All right, I'm not back. Okay, I'm back. All right.
There you go.
We have vanquished technology.
Yeah.
Done.
Excellent. Okay, we're back in business. Let's start again. So, Elisa, I had the pleasure of meeting Elisa through our colleague Colin Groth at Strive Together in Cincinnati. And in our last cohort of fellows, they were really interested in this idea of civic engagement. Mayor Matt Turk was in our cohort, so there was a lot of just conversation around voter turnout and lack of voter turnout in Allentown, and how do we have representation in all of the committees, and are people even willing to step into these governing roles? And as Colin was here in our conversation, he said, I need to introduce you to Elisa. And hi, Kendra, welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Hello, thank you for having me. Sorry for the delay.
No problem. We're just getting started. You're great.
Thank you.
And so he wanted to connect us to Lisa to introduce this concept of school board school, which is really about how do we build capacity as we go forward. So the fundamental goal behind the Pool Fellowship for Health is to build capacity in our nonprofit and government leaders in Allentown to think about really complex problems in different ways. And so along that same line of thinking, School Board School is founded on building capacity to be able to step into governing roles within school board, city council, any other way that may present itself. And so we found a lot of synergies as we were talking between what School Board School is doing and some of what we've done. And it felt like maybe this could be a nice extension of the work that we've started in Allentown. Things I'll say up front, because it's the questions we always get. We don't have to call it School Board School here. We can call it something else. The two other places they've already started this in Louisville and Chicago, don't call it that. It just is powered by School Board School. So not holding on to the title necessarily, but the concept is really, I think, the idea behind it. And Elisa has been gracious enough to share her presentation around the impact of School Board School that they've had in Cincinnati. And we thought a nice next step would be to hear from those who have been in and been a part of School Board School there, so we can hear from them. And all of this leading towards, if we think there is value going forward, don't need to decide it today, but we can go to Cincinnati to go meet everyone in person and not be on a virtual screen with them. So this is hopefully a first conversation to really hear from you all about your experience with School Board School, whether you've been in it or just been a partner of it over time. And I asked them to sort of queue up a few questions that I thought would give us a good overview, and then you can jump in along the way. Anyone can ask questions or wait till the end, however you'd like to do it. So for those who are on the call, if you would please share what you were doing prior to School Board School, why you applied for School Board School, how it impacted what you're doing now, or whether it changed, what it changed for you in terms of coming out of School Board School, and then what role do you see School Board School playing in your community? And Mary, for you, slightly different, but I know you were in the superintendent role and worked closely with School Board School. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about why did you give your very limited time to help lead a session within School Board School, and what some of the impacts you see of what School Board School has been doing within Cincinnati. So Elisa, do you have an order in which you'd like folks to go? Whoever would like to jump in first.
No, whoever wants to jump in first. And I can even chat in those questions for our folks in case they.
Thank you. I was just going to say,
Yeah,
happy to jump in, but I'm like, okay, let me start. Can someone just say the first question, and I'm happy to kick it off.
What were you doing prior to School Board School?
Oh, awesome.
Why'd
Okay,
you-
thanks,
why'd
Elisa,
you
too.
apply? Yep. And then- yep.
Yes. So prior to school board school, I was a program director for the University of Cincinnati in the College of Engineering and Applied Science. So I've always kind of um, been in jobs related to education. So that's where I was at the time. And I chose to apply to school board school. Based on word of mouth, I had a friend who had heard of school board school, had met Elisa and talked so highly about her. My friend knew that I was really into education advocacy. And so she just like, you have to meet her. So we had coffee and she introduced the mission of school board school, kind of a little bit about the cohort and what they hope to do for members. And I was immediately like, okay, sign me up. So once the application rolled out, I applied and interviewed, and luckily I was selected, and it has forever changed my life. So I will pause there to allow other people to speak.
Okay, thank you, Unique. I'll go next. So I am Kendra Mapp, and prior to joining school board school, I was working as a licensed professional counselor, and also previous to that, I had experience as an educator teaching fourth through sixth grade, as well as working in the high schools as a lead and director of counseling services. And so, what prompted my journey with school board school, it was actually during the pandemic, and one of my good friends um, had shared with me information about a parent and student advisory council group that one of the current board members was facilitating at the time. And so I had an opportunity to speak with that board member and gather more information. And so once I had that opportunity, I was just, really involved and connected in advocating for our students as well as our educators within the district, particularly around the issues pertaining to COVID. And that board member had asked if I would like to apply for school board school. I had not heard of it at the time, but he shared some information about the cohort. And interestingly enough, I'm a firm believer if I hear things in threes, then it's something I'm supposed to apply for. And so I end up hearing it, 3 times around. And I said, okay, let me go ahead and do this. And so I was just really excited about taking the time to lean into learning more about what the cohort entailed. And it has also changed my life as well, because I would have never imagined that I would run for a school board position or anything in politics. But now I am a current school board member for CPS district.
I can pop on next. My background is very different. I'm an art teacher's kid who married an art teacher's kid. And I grew up in the 90s with a single mom in poverty, watching the school system destroy my mom's job as if she was not worthy or we were not worthy of learning the things she had to teach. So I was just super passionate as a kid always about making things better for those around me and myself. And so I was only a server and a nanny with my very fancy college degree that I got in 2009. And I had just moved to Cincinnati and been in a brand new city trying to find my way here when I found out about school board school. And so I joined because number one, it was free. Number two, they were really accommodating to my neurodivergence, which has been newer for people to accommodate than to just hear about it. And then once I joined the group, I think one of the things that changed the most for me was I could finally understand my value, and I literally had something to say. Like I had a credit that I was learning from some of the most amazing people about the city and about how it worked. And while I was meeting those people, they were able to learn my heart and not read my resume. And so school board school opened up not only my new career path now as a community organizer, but one of the biggest impacts it made, I think, on my community was that right after I had been in school board school, our entire city council of Norwood, where Mary is our superintendent, was white men. And that was a step backward from the couple of elections before that, where we had finally elected our first Black woman representative. And so I think a lot of us were really disgusted to see the backward slide that year. So during COVID, my husband and I gathered a group of women who were really passionate about community and in Norwood in general. And we sat on a back porch in the freezing cold with our masks on, and we said, who wants to run? And everybody said, not me. But then we said, who's got graphic design talent? Who has the ability to make maps? Who has the connections here or there? Who does, we don't really need to fundraise in our town, it's so small, but like who knows something about fundraising? Everybody had a skill to offer to the group. And so through that group, the next year we had 4 women elected, and now we have 5. And I got to inaugurate 5 women this year, 1 Black woman and 1 queer woman, our first queer person on council. And so now our council is all Democrats and like 1 old Republican. So, you know, it's not just like the school board aspect of it. It's also like, how do we organize the folks in our community and support each other? Because none of us are doing this alone. We all can call each other in this group. And I know I do text Kendra and Unique to say, you know, hey, I've got this project I'm working on for kids, you know, how can you help? And so it's just been an incredible, you know, Norwood's not CPS, but Norwood Community Council benefited from school board school.
Thank you. And I think that kind of opens up the space to what role do you see school board school playing in your community, Jessica? I think you just spoke to that perfectly. And so, Mary, before we let you chime in with your perspective, Avery or Unique or Kendra, do you have anything additional that you want to add to that in terms of the impact that you've seen school board school have?
Absolutely. Just to kind of echo some of the things Jessica just talked about. So I work for the city of Cincinnati, so I'm not in the education space currently, even though education will always hold my heart. However, a lot of the work that I do related to community engagement is school board school has definitely amplified my skill set and my ability to understand how to reach the community at large in very different ways. So I have this network of people where if I know that the city of Cincinnati right now, we are experiencing some challenges with youth-related violence, right? I know Kendra. Kendra was a part of my class. I can text Kendra anytime to, you know, better understand what is Cincinnati Public Schools working on related to trauma-informed care. How do you respond to violence in the schools? And because we have neighborhood schools, when violence occurs in the school or outside of the school, it directly impacts. So we are not siloed at all between a government entity and a school. You know, a school district. A lot of our work intertwine our families, you know, if they don't have housing, if they don't have access to food or a library or whatever, you know, just basic needs, that is where I sit. And that directly impacts what goes on in the classroom. And so being able to have these like interwoven connections to like talk about what we're doing at the city, what CPS is doing, what other districts around Cincinnati are doing, it really does help. With information sharing and collaboration. And I think that that is such a fresh approach to engagement that I'm really excited to see at the city of Cincinnati versus more so traditional, very hierarchical government where things are just, this is this department's role and you don't step outside of that box. Now we are all having conversations and starting to kind of peel some of those layers back. So that's how I would say school board school has impacted what I'm doing now. And in terms of what did it change for me once I came out of school board school, I would say my level of confidence, my decision to pursue my PhD was directly from my experience in school board school. The amount of just opportunities to pour into yourself in this program was phenomenal. And for someone who is a young professional, I'm a Black woman, I am in need of a space that feels authentic, and I need space that I feel like is we're not doing performance, right? Because I do not have time for performance. And so I have been involved in many leadership programs, but School Board School was the first opportunity that I had where I made real connections. Not, oh, follow me on LinkedIn, but we can go have wine, we can go down to City Hall, and we can, have a very serious conversation. We are there for each other in ways that it really is a family. I can wholeheartedly say that, and that is something that I most certainly needed as someone who's not from Cincinnati and needed to find my people here. So and then the last question, what role do you see School Board School playing in the community? I feel like I kind of talked a little bit about that, but just being able to have people who are interconnected, who are doing great work in all of these different areas, in health, in education. I know people who work at Cincinnati Children. So when we talk about asthma rates in specific communities of color, I know someone from Cincinnati Children's that I can literally call. I don't have to go through 50,000 email chains and wait for somebody to respond. I know the person that can connect me directly to who I need to talk to. And it just helps so much with getting the work that we all want to do done. So I'll pause there.
All right, so a lot of my response will be very similar to Unique as well as Jessica's. The role that I believe that School Board School plays in our community is really bringing about awareness and advocacy. And I think it's so important to just highlight that there are several educators from a teacher level, a paraprofessional level, as well as even an administration level. And what I have learned from School Board School is that there's still so much to learn, regardless of what seat or perspective you're in, about what is happening within your district as it pertains to addressing the systemic barriers and the inequities that impact education. And so, again, based off the seat that you are in, we realize that, wow, there's so much more information to gain. And so really, I think School Board School creates that safe space to just have those intentional conversations. One thing that I love about what School Board School and Elisa has done for all of us, and it shows up in my current space, is that we had to make sure that we were prepared to talk about the issue. So we weren't learning or seeing the material for the first time, because we're not just doing this for the sake of just doing it. We had to make sure that we were prepared to show up to have conversations. And what I also loved in those spaces is, yes, we had diversity as it pertained to experience and skills and strengths, but I also love that we had diversity as it pertained to thought, because I think that really helps to elevate us and our abilities to show up as leaders. Because if we are all operating in the same, space in terms of our thinking, then we may be perpetuating behaviors that are not necessarily healthy. But I think that School Board School challenged us as leaders in the cohort to analyze things from different perspectives. And Elisa, you may have to say it for me, but one of the things that we will be charged with is, when we know more, what would we do with that information? Do we remain in that same space, or do we allow ourselves to be in a position to take that new information and maybe have a different perspective? It doesn't mean that we always will have a different perspective, but in having additional information, does that change how you show up as a leader? And so ensuring that we are gathering all perspectives as much as possible to make informed decisions as leaders. And this is I want to share a personal experience, because when we talk about the impact that School Board School plays in the community, I love that as a candidate running to be a school board member, we hosted education policy pitch night, as well as we hosted, or School Board School has hosted, a candidate forum. And my niece was helping me prepare for this forum, and she was doing my hair the night before. And so I'm going over, just questions and going over, different answers. And my niece, I didn't know she was going to show up to watch the forum. She just saw me preparing. And so the next day, she watched the candidate forum, and she said, "Auntie, I am so proud of you. And this has really opened my eyes. I hear so many times, I didn't know how to be involved. I didn't know that, parents, we had a way to be involved, and I want to do more." And I think that that's the genuine, just organic experience that School Board School brings. It really brings the community together in such a healthy way, from, whether you're a parent, even children come, right? We have had children show up to present during policy pitch night. And so I think that it really is about community. School Board School is immersed in the community in such a very authentic way. As Unique talked about, we are able to show up and be ourselves. And I think that that's the magic, or the special sauce, or the special ingredients in it, right? Because we are able to really contribute who we are, and not feel ashamed, or not feel, stifled or scared to just present in the best versions of who we are. And I see that showing up in the space that I am presently. As a school board member, we are presented with so many different challenges that we have to navigate. But I do believe that, the organization and the cohort has really, again, helped me have the confidence to stand on what I believe, to serve in the best interest of our students, to ensure that we are working towards improving successful student outcomes from a lens of governance and not from a lens of management. And so I just love all that School Board School does. And also, and I know I'm probably sharing a lot, but also the mere fact that we are able to continue to do this type of work. The work never ends. So the engagement is continuous, right? It's a fluid process. Just because you have completed the cohort, there's still so much more work to do. And so again, School Board School is woven throughout the community. We have shown up to support one another. So many people, such as Unique, has helped me with my campaign experience. And so it just really highlights that we are truly connected, truly a family. And I agree with the sentiments that were shared. I have been in several leadership organizations, and I have not experienced one such as this. So that's been my experience. I hope I answered all the questions.
You did. That's awesome. And actually, I want to pick up on something you said, Kendra, and Mary, this might be a question more for you, this may be a good place for you to jump in. Part of what you shared is about that governance role. And part of what drew us to this concept to begin with is that we're not really taught how to serve in governance roles anymore, right? Like, that's really not part of our schooling. It's not part of our day-to-day lives. And so having intentional training opportunities around governance, how does that change how school board members show up in Cincinnati and now in Norwood, where you are, Mary? Have you seen a change in that? Is there different kind of conversations? I get the sense that there is from what everyone has shared, but if you could speak to that a little bit, I think that would be great.
You're muted.
We can't hear you, you're muted. Still muted. Let me see if I can unmute you.
You can't.
Aw. Okay.
Oh, she just let me go back out and come back in. Okay.
If anyone else wants to respond to that while we wait for Mary to rejoin, feel free to.
Okay, can you just repeat the question?
Yeah, so the idea of governance, so you spoke about this lens of governance as opposed to, we don't have a lot of forums, right? In our current society that teaches you about how to serve in a governance role, whether that be school board, school, city council, any of the above, right? Anywhere where you being on a campaign. And so it makes it daunting to step into that. And so how has school board, school and the presence of school board, school changed the conversation about governance in your community?
So one way that school board school has changed the conversation is really one helping us to discern what the different roles are, right? What is the role and the responsibility of the superintendent and the treasurer? What is the role and responsibilities of a board member, and how to ensure that everyone is operating within their respective roles while still working collaboratively and having having the intentionality around accountability as well. And so I think that that is one key indicator or one key way that school board school helps to begin to amplify what that looks like. And also helping us to understand the impact of community and how, as a board member, we are expected to listen, right, to our constituents, to our community, to identify what are the goals that they would like to see. What is the vision, right? What are the values, and upholding those things, taking those things back, right? Saying that this is what we have heard from the community, taking these things back and identifying what our goals and our guardrails will be, and then presenting that to the administration so that the administration is able to move forward with the implementation of it. And so I think school board school really helps to just break down these very broad positions that we don't necessarily know. I can say for myself, as a candidate running, okay, I know that the school board hires the superintendent and the treasurer and is expected to, write policy and amend policy and approve the budget and all of these things. But I think school board school really helps us to lean into understanding what those roles entail, and then giving actual scenarios, right? Actual information that we have to lean into, and we have to begin to analyze. We have to think about, what does it mean to present a policy, right? Is this a policy or is this a procedure? And so knowing those very foundational things and the difference between those things, I think really helps to set the tone and the platform so that we are aware of how we are able to show up from a place of governance. If you are a board member or if you are in administration, what the implementation looks like, and also for our families, for our parents, for our students, for our community overall, to know those roles as well, to say, this is what I am holding you all as elected officials or as the administration or anyone within the district. These are the things that I am holding you all accountable to, and I know how to advocate and use my voice to make sure those things are happening.
Thank you.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Oh, yes, thanks. And yes to everything Kendra just said. So the conversation around, I believe this was like a session or two, just helping us understand the difference between the school board roles and responsibilities and what are the responsibilities of the administration. And we had in our class, individuals who worked for Cincinnati Public Schools for quite some time. And this was the first time that it was ever laid so plain that they fully walked away with a better understanding, knowing, oh, that's why, we have to go through this channel to reach this person, or the superintendent focuses on X, Y, and Z. And so that was helpful for me to be able to go back out in my community with my friends who have students or children, family members in Cincinnati Public Schools, to help them better understand. No, you don't want to actually contact school board members for this issue or this concern. This sounds like an administrative concern. So you might want to go through this channel. So just the overall education on that, and then also policy versus procedure. I cannot echo the importance of that learning experience. Being able to look at what does policy actually mean versus what is a procedure, and that has definitely shifted into my work that I'm doing now at the city as we are putting together a community engagement policy. And so I'm always referring back to, are we implementing policy or is this procedure? And so I'm able to bring what I've learned from school board school to like what I'm actively doing now in city government.
Thank you so much. Mary, can you
and-
hear us now? I saw your chat, Lisa. I don't
Okay.
have her in the list of people trying to get in though.
Oh, no. Okay. I will let her know. Thank you. Okay, hold on. Thank you. I'm so glad Mary got in.
I did, I'm back. But it's
Yay.
great, and Enrique already covered what I was going to say, which is, yes, basically, we have these great individuals who run for school board or another governmental position who are passionate and dedicated, and then all of a sudden they run a great campaign, they get elected, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh dear, what do I do? And it's just bizarre. I've met with school board candidates who they were upset about the soccer scheduling, so that's why they ran. So and the soccer scheduling of fields wasn't even something that the district did. It was like the city's rec center. And you're finding yourself having to say, oh, well, maybe instead of scheduling soccer fields, we need to talk about the whole sports program now that you're on the school board. You know, is there funding? Or are we going to do pay for play if we're out of money? What about the facilities? Do girls have the same opportunities as boys? I'm having to say that to basically my boss. You need to look at those big ideas, not just scheduling of soccer fields. And it was the same thing. With another gentleman, he got on the board and he came and said, oh, I can do the budgeting. And I'm going, the budgeting and CPS, we have 30 accountants in a room, but he had helped out on budgeting in his organization. And it's like, well, no, we need to figure out if the budget we're putting together meets the board goals. That's more your role. So that's what's so wonderful about school board school. These individuals come already knowing that, and I'm not having to delicately try to explain that your vision needs to be longer.
Thank you.
I just had something I want to add a little bit to that. Because Mary came new to the Norwood School District while I was still sort of new there. But one of the very first things she did, because Norwood really was asking for it, was start a Montessori school. And so after Advocate for Education Day last year, which was put on by School Board School, I had a couple of neighbors join because they knew me and they wanted to come. So they came to the day and they took my session on organizing. And then they went and they basically organized a group of Montessori moms. I mean, dads are welcome, but you know, it's moms. And so it's all of the moms who have like preschoolers and Montessori. And they organized a group. There's a text chain. Everyone's saying, what are you passionate about? What do you care about? And then this group organized and they asked Mary if they could come and speak with her and see what her goals were for the Montessori school. Because we're kind of adding a grade or adding a group of grades as we go. And so the school has a lot of opportunity for us to be involved as parents. And so, you know, I think our first meeting with Mary went really well because, you know, she said, what do you guys want? And we said, well, what do you want? And so the group is able to be better aligned with what, you know, Mary's view is for the Montessori school. And then we have this wonderful ongoing relationship where she knows us and we know her. We see her out, you know, in the streets. We see her at the events. And I know that now all of these parents, instead of being like, who do I yell at because my kid got a cheese sandwich or like however our text chain started, right? That's not what you take to the superintendent. But now, you know, this group of us has this great relationship with her. She's been to my house to do a podcast, you know, even when she very first started, to say, like, what do you hope? Why would you take this job? I think that was what we were mostly thinking. Like, what are you doing? But it has created this wonderful relationship of creating the school together, you know, which is really special. And so I think it empowers the parents, like we were talking about, sort of the other side of this is the parents know who to go to and they know it's not just who do you yell at or who do you send an angry email to, or you go to the board meeting and you say, I want my soccer schedule to be more conducive to my life. Like, okay, well, there's some other issues here. So I think it's really helping build relationships all through the sort of like school experience.
Thank you, Jessica. Hi, LaRonda, thank you for joining us.
Hello. I apologize for being late. And then I had technical difficulties, so I apologize.
No problem. You got here just in time. I want to open up to the group, and you guys have heard a lot. Is there questions in the room that anyone wants to add or build on to what we've talked about thus far?
My only question is, first of all, I think this is a phenomenal idea. And I think that community organizing and new ways of looking at team building between school districts and city government is long overdue, and I think it's wonderful. But my question for you is, are these students at school, school board school, are they also city government members? Like, do you have city council or county council or people from other walks of life joining school board school?
Yes, so I can take that on. So yes, so this is like a yes and. So our goal is to recruit people who care about education, no matter what role you are currently in. And then, as you've been hearing from this crew, helping you figure out, now that you know this, what seat do you want to be in, right? And so there are folks from lots of different places. Like our last class, we had a police officer. And he's also a CPS dad of a young Black special ed child. And so he had a very different experience in the school system and view of the school system, both as that parent, but also as a police officer. And so people from all different backgrounds and experiences who come together and then are figuring out, now what do I want to do? And so you can see some of those folks going to City Hall, like Unique. And then one of Unique's colleagues over at City Hall is, I think I mentioned to this group last time, from LaRonda and Jess's class. So Gus left school board school saying, oh my God, there are so many systems that impact our kids before they ever sit down in their desk. And we could really help our kids' academic outcomes if we could impact those systems. I got to get into City Hall and figure out how to help make policy. And so he helped run a city council members campaign. It was his first time running a campaign. It was a first time city council member run, and we will brag on them and say they were the highest non-incumbent vote getters. So we're very proud of them. And Gus went from running Reggie's campaign to now being his chief of staff. And so Gus is the chief of staff for Reggie, helping make policy. And I think one of the cool things, right, and I think Kendra can speak to this too, is he was running at the same time as two of our members who are running for school board. And because, as this group keeps saying, relationships are the work, right? Like it's getting to know each other. Gus, Kendra, and Mary did a bunch of campaigning together, talking about how the policy at City Hall, the policy at our school district impacts the same kids. So we need to be talking more to each other. And then they helped restart these quarterly meetings between city council and school board.
That's great.
If we have a minute, I would love for LaRonda to even maybe answer a similar question that you asked, Samantha, if we have time, of like what we should be doing before.
Sure, we have one more question in the room before we do that, if that's okay.
Oh, yes, go for it. Yep.
So I really like the idea. I think we need more diversity of people in local government, because local government affects so many of our everyday lives compared to the federal government. My only question is, how is school going to get itself out there? Like through advertising, like newspaper advertisement, TV advertisements, what's exactly?
Yes. So you're asking, how do we recruit these amazing people? Is this how?
Like, how do you get the word out there?
How do you get the word out?
Yeah. So what they'll tell you is, after class one, we ask them exactly, just pointing to ourselves. So your class one, of course, I can talk about how we do that. But then after class one, it's like, obviously these folks asking their networks to apply to class two. So we always say to them, who do you want to join your network? And then they help us find the next class of people. But we do tons of other work as well. So I think like you heard Kendra say, you got to hear it 3 times. We also know that that's actually research behind it. And so we do what we call a combination of casting the wide net and individual cultivation. So to your question, we do a lot. We do like ads on our local NPR station. We go on other kind of local radio shows. We also ask lots of other values aligned organizations in town to help spread the word. So think about like the Urban League Urban Leaders Program, our local GLSEN group, the Hispanic Chamber. They all will put information in their newsletters, and they'll also put it on their social media so that another trusted source is saying, try, check out this thing. So you're seeing it on there. And then we're also saying to those organizations, who is in part of your organization, your staff, your members, who cares so much about education, and can we talk to them? So then they'll make that personal connection for us, and we do lots of one-on-one coffees with folks. And as we get to know them, and I think these 4 are probably laughing because they're like, yes, I remember this well. When we get to know them and we're like, oh my God, they're amazing, we really need them, we then like do not let them go, right? So then literally up until that deadline, we're texting them, we are calling them, we're saying, what do you need in order to help you submit? Like Jess said, we are super clear in this that like, we care so much about who you are, not about whether or not you put together a grammatically correct sentence. If writing is not your thing at all, that's fine. I can't tell you how many applications will say, just call us and we will type into the application what you tell us is your answer. Or people will use a voice memo and submit it that way. So really making, we'll say like, we don't really care about your resume. We care about what you're up to in the community. So tell us the 5 things that you're most proud of being a part of in this community. Like that's what's on the application. And so those are the ways that we're really making sure we're going out there, we're finding a diverse group of folks. We set demographic goals based on the diversity of our community to make sure that when we say we're putting together a truly diverse representative group, it truly is. So that's everything from race, gender, but also neighborhood. So I'm not sure about Allentown, but here in Cincinnati, everyone loves their neighborhood. We've got 52 different neighborhoods within Cincinnati and then the ones surrounding it. But we also know that some neighborhoods have more privilege, right? So they have held more power over time. So we don't want only those neighborhoods being the ones that, are part of this. And so we are very clear about geographic diversity. So we'll go to those community councils and present at their community council meetings. So really both that wide net and that individual cultivation.
If I could add to that too, School Board School really has a presence in the community. So it's not, we're not passive in the approach, meaning there's that presence of engagement. So there's neighborhood summits that people are able to, connect with School Board School members and find out more information. There's the opportunity for, panel discussions. And correct me, Elisa, but I know we hosted our first education summit or conference this past year. So there's just so many opportunities that allow people from the community to engage and really see the work in action, not just hearing about it, but really being able to witness all of the great things that's going on. And I think that helps to contribute to just the expansion of the organization, because again, when you are able to visibly see what's going on and the magic that is happening, it's just a magnet. I think people are drawn to it and really want to identify ways that they are able to connect. And so I think a lot of it too is just word of mouth, so it's just so many great things that School Board School is doing to make sure that we continue to grow as an organization.
And Elisa did share the educational pitch meet videos, so you can see those if you haven't had a chance to look at them yet to see kind of what some of that looks like. Go ahead, Andreen, and then LaRonda will give you final word to share your experience as well.
I just want to piggyback off my friend on the vetting process. Like, how do you vet the candidates or the people that you want to be a part of School Board School? Because I'm sitting here thinking about someone just walk in and say, hey, I want to be a school board member. They gave my kid the wrong school lunch, and the person's a part of the program, and they're exhibiting traits that are not becoming of a school board candidate. Like, what do you do then? So I'm interested to know what's the vetting process.
Yes, that's another great question. So when I was starting school board school, I did a bunch of research on what distinguished the most effective school board members from those that were less effective, as well as what made community organizers really effective. So some of that was like, you know, literal research, reading people's doctoral theses. And then a lot of it was qualitative. So I had a list of questions and I was asking people like Mary, current and former district administrators, school board members, parents, organizations that partnered with a district, and asking them things like, what are the qualities you have seen in really effective school board members or in those parents who like get stuff done versus those who don't, right? So really gathering all of that information and using that to then build our selection rubric. And so we use that to build both our recruitment model and our selection rubric. And so we have then narrowed that down to what are the key characteristics we're looking for. And then we've got a rubric under those, right? So like, for example, as you heard all of them talking about, is like one of the things is how much you learn, and this idea that you like can change your mind. And it's not just you can, but like you should expect to come into this and change your mind. So like constant learner is one of our characteristics. And then we have a rubric that defines what that is. So then all of our application questions and our interview questions are aligned with that rubric so that we are confident coming in that we have folks who, for example, you know, it's not just out of nowhere that this group is talking all about how they collaborate with each other, but like team player is one of those characteristics. So we're looking for who those people are, right? And I will say too, real quick, one of the things is that we are also looking for that in the recruitment process. So I just want to put out there too that like, yes, we're doing this wide net and this individual cultivation. We never want to get 100 applicants and then have to turn down 75 amazing people in our community who want to work for kids, right? So we are also in those meetings really listening for like, okay, this person is amazing, we're going to go all in to get them. Or like, oh my gosh, I don't think this person is values aligned. They get on our list to kind of just keep getting the standard email reminder, right? Really go after them for the recruitment process. And so we meet as a team. It's weekly, then bi-weekly, then every day during the recruitment season to say, okay, who are your top prospects? Who are my top prospects? When have you talked to them recently? What is their barrier? Who might they need to talk with? As LaRonda knows, I just set her up with a parent who wanted to talk about what does this mean as a parent in this organization. So that's how we really make sure that we are narrowing this down to like, these are the people we think we want for this year's class.
The name of panel people that interview everyone too.
Oh, okay.
Right, Elisa, you guys, when you, in your interview process, there's a panel, like you have you have a panel.
Yes, yes, exactly. Yep, we bring in, different, like Mary's been on one of our interviewers, other school board members, other parents are all part of that interview process, and we train them on that selection rubric, and then they help us select the class.
We have 4 minutes, and I know a few folks have to leave here at 11 o'clock. And so, LaRonda, I want to give you the last 4 minutes to share your story and make sure you have a chance to contribute while you're here.
Yes. Okay. Well, first let me just say thank you for the invitation and being able to share my perspective in regards to School Board School. School Board School is an amazing organization that I am blessed to be a part of. I came in as a parent of 4 children in CPS. Very different things going on in their lives. One had an IEP. So I came in as a parent looking to understand resources, who to connect to, things of that nature. So when I met with Elisa and actually Dr. Moffitt, which is a good friend of mine, she was class 1. So you talk about referral, word of mouth, that's how things happen. Having those intentional conversations. So she shared that with me, I got with Elisa, and then I'm here, boom, I'm in there. So the experience, I'm going to be really quick. So the experience that I had as we were sitting here brainstorming, we were talking about what do you want to see within your school district? So I am blessed to say that I began to write with my team about a parent manual, a parent handbook, having that advocate at the district level to be able to advocate for families that understand what is going on in the system. Now it was 2 years. Now, 2 years later from that time, I'm in the seat. So I'm in my 3rd year now as the district parent champion for Cincinnati Public Schools. So I'm actually doing the work that I created from the need that I saw. So that is the testimony in itself there. And and I did mention that you said about a parent coming in frustrated and coming in with that perspective of negativity, we can change that mindset. And that's what I do every day with the work within our district for 36,000 families, because I do see the things that come in and they have issues, they have concerns. But if you can sit and talk with them and see them and help them to see the narrative change, that's how we promote more families. So that's why also, I'm being really quick. Okay, I have like 1 minute. We have the Parent Academy, which is within Cincinnati Public Schools, which is a direct correlation with this work with School Board School. So I am training our parents and our PTOs in our LSDMC to understand there's another space for you to get into that you can advocate on another level. And it just doesn't have to be School Board School. It can be within your city. It can be in your community council. So I am pushing my parent leadership to get in all spaces of impact to advocate for their babies, because no one can advocate for them like they can. So that's my quick, I'm sorry.
Well done. Well done. Thank you. I'm so glad you had a chance to share that with all of us. It's a perfect note for us to end on. I know we can stay here all day and keep talking. I cannot thank you all enough for sharing your insights and your experience with us. It's been so helpful to see what this looks like in actuality in your own community. And so we have another meeting for us next month. That's just our group, I think, and we're going to keep talking through this and see where we go from here. So Lisa, thank you. Thank you to all of you for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you. Bye-bye.
Bye.